Welcome to Leveraging the Laboratory, a Mayo Clinic Laboratories podcast, where administrators, outreach managers, and laboratory professionals to learn best how to leverage and optimize the laboratory for patients, clients, and staff. I'm your host, Jane Hermansen, Outreach Manager at Mayo Clinic Laboratories. And joining me today, the perennial favorite guests, Dijkman Dulkes and Brianne Newton, who are Mayo Clinic Laboratories Outreach Solution Strategists. And so excited, we have a very special guest joining us today. Isak Schmidley is a medical laboratory scientist at the Christus Health Hospital in Coshada, Louisiana, and he's a graduate student also. Isak is becoming a little bit of a celebrity in the medical industry today because, you see, Isak is the youngest person in history to pass the ASCP Medical Lab Scientist exam, and as we talk today, Isak is 16 years old. In this podcast, we talk a lot about the stuff that happens beyond laboratory testing. We talk a lot about the pre and post analytical, the regulations, the finance, the logistics, the operations. And we assume that the testing is a given. As Ellen likes to say, it's the easy part. Well, indeed, it might seem a little easy, but you know what? Somebody needs to perform that testing. And across the lab industry, we're seeing what some are calling the silver tsunami, that the experienced lab scientists are reaching an age when they're ready to retire and there's nobody to replace them. And we need to be recruiting the next generation of lab scientists, which brings us to our guest today. Isak, the fact that you chose this field gives us a tremendous amount of hope for the future. Let's start by learning a little bit more about you and how you became aware of medical lab science as a career option for you.
Of course. Well, so nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I think pursuing my, as I was going throughout my college experience, I started at a community college. It was the Bossier Parish Community College, and I took some science courses, and I was really interested in science and the lab especially, but I didn't quite realize how that would translate to a certain career. And it was one day I was in the chemistry lab, and I saw a little poster with a recruitment ad for a local MLS training school. And it seemed really interesting, so I looked into it, and really I discovered this whole new career opportunity that was in front of me. And so I applied to join that program, and I started that summer after I graduated with my associate's degree, and that's really how my lab story begins.
Nice. Well, I'm curious. We've visited on this podcast, the three of us, on what hooked us. What's our origin story in the field of lab science? And I'm dying to know what you love about it. Sometimes you kind of have to get your feet wet, right? And work in different sections and kind of learn what you love and what you hate. What do you love about medical lab science? And I'd love to kind of add a second question. What hooked you? What was the thing that was like, I love this. This has got to be what I choose.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think it was really the practical application of the science that's been years learning about in my high school endeavors and throughout the community college science courses that I took. Just learning about the theoretical applications of science it was interesting, but I felt like there was something more that I could learn. And really this MLS career that really opened the door and allowed me to sort of pursue that opportunity to really apply the science that I had been learning. And that's really what got me hooked on pursuing this career.
That's awesome. You know, I wrote in my high school yearbook that I wanted to be a successful medical technologist. And so I knew at an early age that that's what I wanted to do. And I just lit up about it. And as you're still training, you know, in your new role and figuring out what you want to do with your career path, what do you really like about the hospital work you're doing? Is there a favorite department that you like so far?
I would say probably my favorite department would be the hematology department. I think it's really interesting to both prepare the slides and stain and just go through them really detail oriented. I'm really detail oriented and just going through the slides really carefully to make sure that the patient has make sure you know that whatever problems they have with their blood, I can get that information out. And it's really one of those areas in the lab that it's more it's a little bit slower, but I think I can find some sort of peace and enjoyment in that instead of the sort of chaotic rushing around that some of the other departments might see, like the blood banking and even sometimes the chemistry department can get a little overwhelming. But I think there's a lot of peace in the hematology department, and I really like working in that area especially.
Well, I can sure speak to the frenzy. I was a chemist, so I lived in that wild life. And Ellen wanted to be a successful medical technologist from high school. Brianne caught her fever, I think, in college. And I wanted to be a med tech from the time I was 8 years old. I had an uncle who was in the field. So I think we each kind of have our origin story, as Brianne likes to say. So I think my question, Isak, you talked about hematology and you like the slower pace, you like really digging into the slides and looking at the cells. What do you want to know more about? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
Okay. Yeah. I enjoy, yeah, so I enjoy, going through hematology and making just carefully going through that. But I also enjoy going through if there's any analyzers that need fixing. I enjoy sort of troubleshooting and seeing what's wrong and what I need to do to fix it. Because I think that, in the lab, the analyzers, they oftentimes do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. And I think it's good to know that, we're still, the reason why we're here is, we can help sort of correct the analyzers and make sure that any the mistakes that they're made are not being sent out and as official patient reports, and just sort of making sure that things run smoothly in that regard. And so I really enjoy just fixing the analyzers when they're broken down, and I would like to learn more of that in the future.
So you can actually be the engineer and design the new things because you've been on the lab side. Now you can be on the engineering side and create some new technology. So we know what you want to know more about. What could you use a little less of? And maybe it's a little early to ask that kind of a question since you're fresh in the field, and we don't want you to think negatively, but what could you use a little, if you had to pick, what could you use less of in your work as a lab scientist today?
Yeah, well, there's not many things that really come to mind as something I don't really enjoy. There is however one little, it's a really small thing, and I don't do it that often, but I really do not like faxing reports. I have no problem putting it in the computer and sending it out that way, but I don't see why sometimes we need to fax things, because you have to send that paper in, and then you have to file the confirmation that it has been faxed, and going through all those steps, which is it's a little bit annoying, but it's not something that I do often. And so yeah, other than that, I've really had a great time with my work experience throughout the lab.
So you have already dipped your toes into one of the heartaches and headaches of a laboratory outreach program, having to manually fax reports when you think the computer can take care of it for you. So
Right, yeah.
welcome to our world, friend. Awesome. I think Ellen, you've got a question for Isaac.
I do.
We're just doing
Burning
the round table
questions.
here.
Burning questions. So, Isaac, when you talk with others in your peer group, and your peer group hasn't really emerged into the field of laboratory science yet, how do they
Yeah.
respond to what you're doing? Is there an awareness about our profession, or I mean, what do they know about it? Because I didn't really know about MLS as a profession when I was in high school.
Yeah, I think you know, everyone that I've spoken to, they haven't like none of them that none of the people that I know in high school, or even some who are already in college, they didn't know about this profession when I first spoke to them. But when I told them about it, they seemed really interested in the opportunity, because I know you know, many of my the high school aged friends that I know of, they they a lot of them want to pursue some health related career, for its you know, for whatever reasons they want. You know, stability is often a major factor, but a lot of them also don't want to deal with the hassles of interacting with patients. You know, like in many of in nursing, you'd have to interact with patients and physicians and whatnot. And so a lot of people don't actually want to do that, but they don't really think of any other options that might be there. And so I think really just trying to spread the word about the MLS career can go a long ways. And I think people are naturally interested in such a lab profession. They don't know about it yet.
And when I said peer group, I had to. You are a unicorn, Isaac, in that your peer group is age related as well as academic. You know, you really, it's
Right.
college and high school, so you really are a unicorn. And I need to correct myself there, Isaac. You are unique in that way. And
Yeah,
so
it's a little weird.
and it really is true that we really need to target a new audience and a new generation, and we struggle in how to reach those folks in your peer group, and how do we reach them,
Yeah.
you know, so we really do, you know, what innovative ways do you think we can raise awareness? Are there anything
Well,
that you might be able to help
yeah,
us with?
I think you know, in this day and age, probably the most viable tool for spreading information and really trying to engage people would probably be like social media platforms. And I think you know, it can be a little difficult because there's not a huge you know, the medical lab industry doesn't have a huge presence in the just general culture as a lot of other health professions, such as you know, as physicians or nursing. But I think that just trying to spread the really any method could go a long way. I think just trying to put that information out there will help. And people will, like I said, people want something like this, and they would be interested if they knew about it. But I just think that's not enough people know about it. Or
And I liked your insight about not directly dealing with patient care, but indirectly is really, I think, a
yeah,
strong focus
yeah,
for
I
Yeah,
lab
I'm
think a lot of
laughing.
people need that.
I'm laughing with you, Ellen, because that's what drew me in. Because I didn't mind some patient contact. I just didn't want it to be the bulk of my day. That's not where my gifting is. But I don't mind it in you know, fits and
No.
starts, but I certainly didn't want it to be the bulk of what I could expect throughout a day. So it very much appealed to me in that regard. And Isaac, it sounds like a little bit to you as well, and
Yeah,
being able to really highlight that aspect of lab science to say, you know, this is how we take care of patients. And we've talked about that on previous episodes of the podcast as well. is that this is how we do that. So I want to turn a little bit to the future with I'm just dying to know, is all of us on here, the three of us have graduate degrees. We have master's degrees in various things. And you never start out in graduate school without kind of the end goal. What do I want to do with this when I'm done? And Jane mentioned that you're pursuing a master's degree right now, a master's of public health. So what are you going to do with that? It's a little crossover from lab science into that.
it is.
So with that forethought in mind, what are your plans for your graduate degree?
Yeah, well, I heard about the graduate degree. Some of my mentors and professors when I was still going through the MLS school, some of they've told me about this would be a viable next step for if you want to continue your education further. And actually, one of my professors, she obtained her MPH from the public health degree. I just say MPH and assume everyone knows what that is, but she obtained hers from the same school that she graduated from, the same one that I graduated from with my MLS degree. And so the person who was the program director of the MPH program was really interested in having me on board. And so I think it was more of a, I think a lot of people tried to guide me in that direction. And I think that, it was, they told me it was a sort of a natural progression for people who work in the medical lab science field. And so that's really what compelled me to sort of move in to take that step. But I think, it would open up a lot of opportunities for further sort of maybe even like management type lab work, or perhaps policy making in the regards the lab and science. And so I think that there's just a lot of opportunities that could come from the MPH.
And I think just being able to use data, because what's the product from the laboratory? Tons of data, right? And bringing that data in to help improve the health of our country overall would be nothing more noble than that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to shift to a kind of a leadership, your boss's perspective. So we have a lot of people who listen to this podcast, Isaac, who are laboratory leaders and they're managers, and they're looking for people like you. As a new professional in our industry, what would you want them to know about you, or perhaps those of your age peer group, and what you need from an employer in order to feel like this is a place I fit, this is a job I want to do, and you're going to be loyal and you're going to give 1,000% every day? What does it take to win you over?
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of people my age, they have a very independent spirit, and they like to, I think a lot of them like to see that reflected in their management. And so I really my boss, she really takes great initiative in the work that she does. And she's very proactive, and so she'll go out of her way to make sure things get done, even if it's not directly her responsibility. And she'll just try to see every day what she can do to help improve the lab, and to help make that a better, safer working environment, a better working environment, and provide faster and more accurate care for the patient specimens and the samples that come through. And so I think that just seeing that independence and that taking initiative can be really inspiring for really anybody, but especially among people in my generation and in my age. That's the type of leader that they want to see.
Fantastic. And I know this is a question I maybe hadn't prepared you for, but I would hope, Isaac, that you have an elevator speech. If you were going to give a pitch for medical laboratory science to anyone, what would you say? This is a fantastic career because.
Oh, wow, that's okay. Oof. I would I would really focus in on the immediate career certification that this provides. Say, look, there are many great jobs. There are many great careers that you can go out there, then you can pursue, and maybe you'll get paid great money for doing it. But there are very few which you can say for really almost absolute certainty that if you complete this program, if you do this degree, there will be someone in the lab in a management position that will be waiting for you and will give you that job, because people in this profession, in this industry, are really in such dire need right now.
And we will embrace you with open arms. So thank you so much for that. And Isaac, I think I can really speak for the entire industry when I say thank you truly for choosing this field and sharing your whole story with us today. You give me hope, and I think all of us hope for the future of lab medicine. So good luck to you in your future endeavors. And thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you to our audience for listening to our podcast today. I want you to know that registration is now open for our 35th Outreach Conference. Leveraging the Laboratory Sees Tomorrow will be held in Rochester, Minnesota, September 17th and 18th, 2024. For more information, please visit our mayocliniclabs.com website, click on Education and Conferences, and I hope to see you there. And thank you all for listening to Leveraging the Laboratory, a podcast from Mayo Clinic Laboratories. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. And until next time, we encourage you to continue to promote your community-based hospital laboratory. The needs of the patient come first.